Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Her Stories, Breaking Silence on Violence Against Women. My name is Reina, and it is truly an honor to be your MC tonight as we gather here on this important day, November 25th, the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. Thank you for choosing to spend this evening with us and to reflect, to witness, and to honor the voices of women whose stories are too often pushed into silence. Tonight's program brings together survivors, scholars, advocates, and artists who have committed their lives to truth and justice. I would like to begin with thanking our speakers who have joined us from near and far. Lawdan Bazargan, Ladan Zarabadi, Dr. Tenzin Dorjee, and Nayara Santos. Our artists whose powerful work are displayed throughout the space, Adine, Kati, Pardis, Raz, Samane, Marzieh, Saman, and Shab. Thank you for lending your vision and creativity to this event. Our organizers, volunteers, and our supporting partners, especially the Edmond College Art Department and USCIRF, for helping bring this gathering to life. And a special thank to the Washington State Art Commission for their generous grant. Before we begin, here's a brief overview of the program. We will start with a live performance, then we'll hear from our speakers in two segments with Q&A after each. Midway through, we will take a break to enjoy refreshment and visit the art displays. We will then continue with our performance, our remaining speaker, and closing remarks. Thank you again for being here, for holding a space, and for standing in solidarity. To open our evening, we are honored to begin with a very special live performance, Baraye, presented by USCIRF. Socially Conscious Artists Foundation is an organization dedicated to bringing attention to crucial social issues prevalent today. USCIRF uses the voice of passionate artists to shed light on these issues that may otherwise be overlooked and forgotten as more statistics. Baraye became the anthem of the Women Life Freedom Movement and received a Grammy Award in 2022. Please join me in welcoming the performers to the stage.
Hi, I'm Anya. I'm with USCIRF. I'm excited to share that USCIRF Global will be showcasing 3 unique choreographies. We invite you to capture videos and photos for your favorite moments, but we do request that all photos be kept under 10 seconds so that we avoid any recordings of the full choreographies. Thank you so much.
We have the music, please.
Thank you.
The song was written and sung by Sherman Hajipur in response to the death of Mahsa Amini, who was arrested for wearing her hijab improperly. She died shortly afterwards in police custody. After her death, many people started posting on Twitter about their reasons for wanting change in Iran. All these tweets started with the word for, or baraye. Hajipur then compiled several of these tweets to use as lyrics for the song. He was arrested less than 24 hours after its release and was forced to remove it from the internet. Since this song is sung in Farsi, we will now provide English translations along with some accompanying movements which you will be seeing throughout the piece. These movements are based on the classical Indian dance form of Bharatanatyam, but have been modified. For the freedom of dancing freely on the streets. The song was written and sung by Sherman Hajipur in response to the death of Mahsa Amini, who was arrested for wearing her hijab improperly. She died shortly afterwards in police custody. After her death, many people started posting on Twitter about their reasons for wanting change in Iran. All these tweets started with the word for, or baraye. Hajipur then compiled several of these tweets to use as lyrics for the song. He was arrested less than 24 hours after its release and was forced to remove it from the internet. Since this song is sung in Farsi, we will now provide English translations along with some accompanying movements which you will be seeing throughout the piece. These movements are based on the classical Indian dance form of Bharatanatyam, but have been modified. For the freedom of dancing freely on the streets. For the fear of kissing your lover on the streets. For my sister, your sister, our sisters. For changing the stale, rotten minds of the backward-thinking government and their fanatic supporters.
For the shame and sorrow of not having money to provide for your family. For the wistful longing and yearning for a normal life. For the scavenger kid rummaging through garbage who asked, "What is a wish?" For the forced, artificial, and ordered economy that makes everyday life a miserable struggle.
For the polluted air and the poison we breathe every day. For the dying, withering trees of the once beautiful and green Valley Estra Street. For the Persian cheetah Peruz, who is in imminent danger of extinction. For the innocent dogs that are not just forbidden, but are slaughtered by the state.
For the never-ending tears. For yearning to relive our past happy days and for the dream of reminiscing about precious moments in history. For the day that our profile pictures are smiling pictures of ourselves, filled with laughter and not protest avatars. For all the students and their brighter future.
For the forced idea of heaven. For the intellectuals, philosophers, and visionaries who are forcibly imprisoned and routinely tortured. For the immigrant Afghani children who fight for inclusion and basic human rights. for so many other unique fors or برایes.
For all the compulsory, empty slogans that school children are obligated to recite. For the flimsy houses that collapse on people and leave them shelterless. For wanting the feeling of peace and tranquility in life. For the bright, hopeful sun after a long, dark night.
For the psychotic meds and insomnia, the stress and the sleeplessness. For humankind, our homeland, and its prosperity. For all the girls who, at least once, wistfully wished they were boys. For woman, life, freedom.
برای توی کوچه رقصیدن، برای ترسیدن به وقت بوسیدن، برای خواهرم، خواهرت، خواهرامون، برای تغییر مغزها که پوسیدن، برای شرمندگی، برای بیپولی، برای حسرت یک زندگی معمولی، برای کودک زباله‌گرد آرزوهاش، برای این اقتصاد دستوری، برای این هوای آلوده، برای ولیعصر و درختای فرسوده، برای پیروز و احتمال انقراضش، برای سگهای بیگناه ممنوعه، برای گریه های بیوقفه، برای تصویر تکرار این لحظه، برای چهره این که میخنده، برای دانش آموزا، برای آینده، برای این بهشت اجباری، برای نخبه های زندانی، برای کودکان افغانی، برای این همه برای غیر تکراری، برای این همه شعارهای تو خالی، برای آوار خونه های پوشالی، برای احساس آرامش، برای خورشید پس از شبای طولانی، برای قرصای اعصاب و بیخوابی، برای مرد میهن آبادی، برای دختری که آرزو داشت پسر بود، برای زن زندگی آزادی، برای آزادی، برای آزادی، برای آزادی.
Wow, what a beautiful performance that was. Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful performance. I got really emotional. Now it is my honor to introduce our first speaker, Lawdan Bazargan. Lawdan Bazargan is a former political prisoner and a current director of Victims' Families for Transitional Justice. She has dedicated her life to seek justice for victims and their families. She will talk about femicide in Iran, sharing important statistics and legal context. Please welcome Lawdan Bazargan.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, and fellow defenders of human dignity. Today, on November 25th, we gather to honor the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and we will begin with the story of 3 women whose courage changed history, the Mirabal sisters. Patria Minerva and Maria Teresa Mirabal lived under one of the most brutal dictatorship of the 20th century, the regime of Rafael Trujillo in the Dominican Republic. They were known as Las Mariposas, the butterflies, because they brought hope into a country that had forgotten how to breathe. They organized underground resilience, supported political prisoners, smuggled materials, and inspired thousands to believe that tyranny could fall. And for this courage, on November 25, 1960, Trujillo's secret police stopped their car on a mountain road, beat them, strangled them, and tried to disguise their murder as a car accident. Their death shook a nation and helped bring down a dictator. And the world chose this day, November 25th, to remind us that violence against women is not just a private issue. It is political, it is structural, it is a weapon of control, and it is a sign of society's deepest moral collapse. Today, as we remember the Mirabal sisters, we must also remember the women of Iran, who live under one of the most violent institutionalized systems of gender oppression in the world. In Iran, femicide is not an accident. It is not an isolated crime. It is not a random tragedy. It is a system. Honor killings are largely protected. Fathers and grandfathers who kill their daughters faced almost no punishment. Domestic violence is barely recognized by law. Women who resist forced hijab face beating, arrest, torture, and murder, as we saw with Mahsa Amini and Armita Gravand. The state polices women's bodies and their movements. Women activists disappear in custody, and every woman in Iran grows up knowing that her life can be taken from her by the state, by her family, or by the law itself. This is femicide, not only by individuals, but by a government and a legal structure that has turned violence into a governing principle. But to understand why femicide is so powerful in Iran, we must confront a truth that many prefer to avoid. The dictatorship in Iran is not like fascism or communism in Europe. Under Mussolini and under Stalin, the church was often a place of refuge, a place where dissidents could hide, a place to organize resistance. Religion could be a shield against tyranny. In Iran, religion has become the root of the oppressor. The Islamic Republic is not a secular dictatorship that merely uses force. It's the theocracy that claims divine permission to control women's lives. It fuses political power with religion doctrine in a way that makes oppression sacred. It turns violence into virtue. And this is why it is more dangerous and more resistant to change than many other authoritarian regimes. The foundation of this system is not only political, it is doctrinal. It is written into the laws, the courts, the education system, and the Friday ceremonies. And one of the key sources invoked against again and again is Surah Nisa, the 4th chapter of the Quran, which outlines fundamental rules about women. Surah Nisa allows polygamy. It tells men they can marry 2, 3, or 4 wives. It instructs men to discipline a disobedient wife by admonishing her, then abandoning her in bed, and then beating her. This verse has been used for centuries to justify domestic violence, and it is still used today in Iran to deny women any legal protection against spousal abuse. Surah Nisa establishes that a woman inherits half of what a man inherits. It lays the groundwork for male guardianship, telling men they are in charge of women because God has preferred some over others. It regulates female sexuality and permits forced sexual relations with female captives of war, even if they were married. And it creates a worldview in which men possess authority and women must accept subordination. This is why the struggle of Iranian women is not only political. It is a struggle against a system that claims divine approval for its brutality. When a dictatorship wraps itself in sacred language, resistance becomes even more dangerous, and yet Iranian women continue to resist. Women in Iran are fighting a government that uses religion to control them. They are fighting a state that teaches men that they have authority over them. They are fighting laws rooted in verses that justifies beating, controlling, and silencing them. And then, despite all of this, they walk unveiled in the streets. They shout women, life, freedom. They bury their daughters and still stand. They suffer beatings and still rise. Their courage is the continuation of the Marable sisters. It is the same spirit of resilience against a system that believes its own women's bodies and women's lives. If the world truly wants to eliminate violence against women in Muslim majorities countries, then there must be a reckoning with religion's doctrine itself. Just as Christianity went through a renaissance and an enlightenment, leaving behind stoning, burning women at the stake, witch trials, and the belief that women were inferior by divine doctrine, the Islamic world also needs that transformation. It needs a moral and intellectual revolution that says these verses cannot rule our modern lives. These ancient laws cannot define women's dignity. These practices cannot be sacred. Without the reformation inside Islam, women will continue to live under a system where violence is not only legal, but holy. No society can be free while half its population is kept in chains, while they claim that God wanted it this way. Today, to honor the women of Iran and all women who resist, I want to recite you one of my poems. Before I read this poem, I want to share where its emotions comes from. I was 9 years old when the Islamic Revolution changed everything. The revolution had promised freedom, but the group that took power turned Iran into an Islamic state. Overnight, women became second-class citizens. We were forced into long dresses and veils. Men gained the right to 4 wives. A woman's inheritance was cut in half. The value of a woman's life in court became half that of a man, and women lost their custody and divorce rights. Then the Iran-Iraq war began, and the new regime used the chaos to silence all opposition with execution, torture, and imprisonment. Daily life became controlled in the name of Islam. Schools, buses, and public spaces were segregated. What we wore, how we laughed, how we walked, and even what we believed was monitored. And because Islam considers a child automatically Muslim if their parents are questioning or leaving the faith could mean death. This is the world that shaped me and millions of Iranian women, and this is the voice behind the poem. Allow me to read it to you. I'm a woman, an Iranian woman. Our birth certificate has a line for religion. Mine says Muslim. Since my parents' birth certificates say Muslim, I'm a Muslim. Since their parents' birth documents say Muslim, they are Muslim. No one asked me what I believe. No one ever asked me about my view. No one ever asked what I want to be. Being a Muslim woman in a Muslim country has its own formula. My father would say, "Don't dress like that, I'll be dishonored." My mother would say, "Don't laugh out loud, that's not ladylike." My brother would say, "Don't come out of your room when my friends come over." And I wondered, why can my cousin say, "Don't wear those red pants"? I'm a girl, a woman, so I'm the property of my father. I'm a girl, a woman, so I'm the honor of my brother. I'm a girl, a woman, so what I want, what I feel don't matter. But why my cousin can tell me, "Don't wear those red pants"? Sorry, I forgot. I'm a woman, a female, not a human. Since I'm a Muslim woman, anyone can tell me to do this and that. As I walk on the streets, an old man runs after me, shouting at me, "Cover your hair, cover your hair. Have you no shame? My son died in the war, so Islam rules our country. Cover yourself, cover yourself." I am ashamed, I'm scared. As I'm pulling down my scarf to hide all my hair, I can't stop thinking, did he really die so I'll be a prisoner? Did he really die so my rights would shrink to half of a man's rights, so my life be valued half of a man's life in a court system of an eye for an eye? Did he really die so my father can give me away as a bride at age 9, so my husband can marry 3 other women, and my brother receives twice as much inheritance? Maybe he went to the war to save our motherland. Maybe he went to the war to save innocent lives. Oh, no, 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 I can't believe he went to the war so I'll be buried alive in black veil. I can't believe he died so I don't laugh aloud, so I don't dress in color, so I don't fall in love. What a sad reason to die. What a waste of one's life. I'm a woman, an Iranian woman. I'm labeled Muslim without my approval. Please, someone tell me, how can I resign? How can I not be? How can I be free? Woman, life, freedom.
Thank you, Lawdan. That was beautiful. That was amazing. Very powerful. Our next speaker is Ladan Zarabadi. Ladan is a Ph.D. candidate at the UCLA in gender studies. She grew up in Iran and experienced life as a woman under gender apartheid. She will explore how the media can misrepresent women's experience and voices. Please welcome Ladan Zarabadi.
Hello, everyone. I'm so honored to be here among scholars, activists, and community members. People who care deeply about justice and about confronting violence in all its forms, especially eliminating violence against women and minoritized groups. Thank you so much for joining us for today's program. Today, I want to focus on Iranian women, not only on the violence they face, but on the violence that becomes invisible. Violence hidden in silences, in misinterpretation, and in the distance between scholarly narratives and women's lived realities. So my perspective is mostly from a scholarly perspective or position. I also want to reflect on how everyday life in Iran, especially for women, has become a site of continuous resistance, especially after the Women Life Freedom Movement, and why naming these forms of violence and resistance matters, not just for Iran, but for transnational feminist politics everywhere. Violence against women in Iran operates on multiple fronts: legal, physical, symbolic, and digitally mediated. But what often makes this violence powerful is not its existence, it's its disappearance. In the context where the state criminalizes the most basic aspect of normal life, from dress, mobility, sociability, to the joy itself, like music and dance, performing normalcy is not a sign of reform or freedom. It is a form of everyday resistance, enacted under threat, fear, pressure, and profound uncertainty. Unfortunately, this resistance is often misread by both non-Iranian observers and several Iranian scholars in the diaspora. Much of this misreading stems from confusing visibility with liberation, a very kind of Western approach, and reading women's everyday actions as sign of progress, rather than as strategies for navigating and resisting authoritarian rule. These days, images of women in Iran unveiled, walking in malls, sitting in cafes, riding bicycles or motorcycles, strolling, singing, and even dancing in public and in the streets, circulate widely in social media. But what disappears in these images are the fear of being filmed by state cameras, the anxiety of fines, arrest, and violent retaliation, the emotional labor of performing resistance daily in a heavily policed environment. Unfortunately, just mentioned a few of them from a very long list. Social media visibility strips away context. What remains is a sanitized and decontextualized image, looks normal, casual, and sometimes even joyful. And without context, outsiders, and sometimes even very well-meaning feminists, interpret these scenes as a sign of political improvement, rather than acts of courageous defiance. Feminist concepts often travel globally through media, activism, and academic discourses. But in this movement, they can be mistranslated, sometimes unintentionally and sometimes strategically. These mistranslations can reinforce the very power women are resisting. The Islamic Republic has systemically deprived deprived people, especially women, of a normal life. The state regulates what they wear, whether they sing solo or dance in public, what jobs they may hold. For example, women cannot be a judge in Iran because they are deemed to be too emotional or not rational enough to be a judge. Whether they can leave the country without the father's or husband's permission, since they legally need to have permission of a male member of their family. Whether they can win custody of their child, because women usually lose their child custody not because of their capability, but because of their gender. Whether they receive equal inheritance, because women's share of inheritance is half of a man. Thank you so much for Lawdan Bazargan, who completely talked about that part. Thank you so much. And whether they can receive legal and social protection when domestic violence happens. And in this tragic, and unfortunately, this list goes on, especially in underdeveloped regions in Iran. In such a context, ordinary acts become intensely political. Walking unveiled, singing solo and dancing in the streets, riding a bicycle and even motorcycle that these days are seen frequently in Tehran. There are not neutral acts in the context of Iran, but they are performed against a state that monitors, polices, fines, arrests, and executed, and constantly threatens those who engage in them. So they are not celebration of freedom. They are forms of collective embodied everyday civil disobedience. But why talking about these issues matter? A challenge arises when some West-based scholars, especially those working within constrained or within certain strands of post-colonial and anti-imperialist framework, interpret these acts as primarily through their own theoretical commitments, which results in reinforcing the misrepresentation and misinterpretation process. Their hesitation to criticize the Islamic Republic probably or may arise from fear of reinforcing Western imperialist narrative, a desire to resist Orientalist portrayals of Muslim women as like victim, uneducated, or powerless subject that needs to be saved, or an overcorrection in response to decades of racialized discourses. These concerns are real, and I share them. But when the primary goal becomes countering Western narratives only, rather than listening to women inside Iran, something gets lost. In attempting to avoid one form of misinterpretation or misrepresentation, they may unintentionally reproduce another. By emphasizing visibility and agency while minimizing state violence and the cost associated with women's acts of agency, they inadvertently reinforce another Orientalist discourse, the one that resists Western narratives at the cost of ignoring or downplaying the local authoritarian violence. By doing so, they normalize authoritarian regime, for example, in this topic, Islamic Republic, erase how constrained everyday life is, grant the regime a facade of flexibility, weaken global solidarity, and even maybe more important, create discursive cover for increased repression and executions. My intention is not to dismiss post-colonial scholars. Many have provided essential critiques of global power and knowledge production. The issue is not theory itself. It is when theory becomes so dominant that it overshadows and misinterprets the voices of women living under authoritarian violence. In this sense, misinterpretation itself becomes politically consequential. When everyday resistance is mistaken for reform or freedom, several consequences follow. The international community underestimates the severity of the repression. The regime gains legitimacy. Executions and other forms of violence then escalate without scrutiny. Women's courage is misread as comfort, erasing the emotional, economic, psychological, and physical risks they carry. In this sense, misrepresentation becomes its own form of epistemic violence, which in this case means violence that silences experience, distorts realities, and ultimately protects the state, which is the main immediate source of oppression than people. So scholarly discourses based on such misinterpretation do not stay within academic spaces. They circulate into public debates, media narratives, and political arenas. And once they do, they become political force with real consequences. So, what should we, as new generation of scholars, activists, and artists do? We must name violence. Naming violence is not a symbolic gesture. Naming is power. When we name discriminatory laws, we expose the system that reinforces it or enforce it. When we name violence, like beating, arrests, forced confessions, surveillance, femicide, and digital harassment, we disrupt the state's attempt to normalize them. And when we name misinterpretation, we interrupt global narratives that appropriate, distort, or minimize Iranian women's struggle or women's struggle everywhere. Naming is also a form of refusal to let the state define reality, refusal to global powers who define Iranian women, Muslim women, or any other kind of any groups, and refusal to allow silence to do the work of oppression. And my last words. From a transnational feminist lens, we must recognize different forms of violence and remain in solidarity across differences, from Gaza to Ukraine, from Afghanistan to Sudan, and across religions, cultures, and political borders. And we must hold two truths simultaneously. First, opposing Western colonial narratives does not require minimizing the violence of local regimes. And second, critiquing local authoritarianism does not equate to support colonialism. It may not look very easy, it is difficult, but it's not impossible. On this International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, my invitation is very simple. Let us commit to listen or to listening without projecting. Let us hold space for stories that are not easily told. Let us challenge representations that silence more than they reveal. And let us recognize that making violence visible is not only an analytical act, it is an act of solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ladan. That was amazing. Our next speaker is Dr. Dorjee. We are honored to be joined by Dr. Dorjee. He is the current Fullerton professor and former commissioner and will discuss honor killings and their impact on communities and families. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dorjee.
It's really hard to follow powerful women speakers, but I have been given the challenge, so I have to honor it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On this special occasion, I would like to pay my respect to all women here and across the globe. I would like to express allyship with women's right for life, liberty, and equality, and remark against gender-based violence and femicide. Thank you for this privilege and opportunity to stand with really incredible women speakers. As we have witnessed, they are more than able to break the silence and speak for themselves. They don't really need men like me to speak, but I'm just simply adding my voice here. Women face a multitude of violence, and these include physical violence, verbal violence, and psychological violence. Examples abound. That would include femicide and domestic violence, sexual abuse, forced abortions, female genital mutilation, and slavery, and goes on. And when I was serving on the United States Commission for International Religious Freedom, along with few commissioner colleagues, we flew to Iraq. And then two of us, Commissioner Christina Arriaga and I, flew to the northern part of Iraq called Kurdistan. We learned that there was a big Yazidi refugee camps. And they said it was very far. It would require about more than 2 hours drive. And we insisted that we must be there. So they had to somehow organize, and we were very insistent upon that. And under tough security, we visited this camp where there were hundreds of refugees in a very poor conditions. Originally, they were supposed to be there for about 6 months or 1 year at the most. By the time we visited, it was already 4 years. And the living condition was very poor. I could empathize with this. I'm a Tibetan American now, but I grew up as a Tibetan refugee in India. So I know what life struggle means. Yeah. And particularly, we listened to the stories. Of course, we were there to find about the violations of, freedom of religion and belief. But we also listened to many tragic stories that women told us that they were abused by the ISIS. Many had to go through forced abortions, and many even decided to keep the child and give birth. So it was very, how should I say, memorable visit there. And once we returned to Washington, D.C., we put everything in our annual publication report, and we also testified before the Congress about the violations of freedom of religion as well as violence against women. And I particularly want to talk about femicide. I can assume that you know what it is, but as a scholar, I have been trained that the important key concept must be defined at least once. Femicide is an intentional killing of women for who they are because of their gender. It is often buried under many related terms like gender-based violence, homicide, domestic violence, and that doesn't seem to do justice to this particular issue. I agree with United Nations Women's expertise that we must call it what it is. It is femicide. It is intentional killing of women because of their gender. I'm mostly known for my publications on honor-related, izzat-related femicide or killing. My co-authors, late Professor Stella Tingtomi, international renowned intercultural scholar, and one of our graduate students, Nuri Beg, who is a professor in India at a university right now. So we looked at a particular honor izzat-related case story of Miss Banez Mahmood in the immigrant community in England. She was an Iraqi Kurd of 20 years old, and of course, she fell in love with an Iranian Kurd whose name was Soleimani. Unfortunately, they were seen together at the Tube, that's the subway in Britain, and reported back to the family. And then the family is, presided over by the father and the uncle, basically the male side of the family. The mother was there simply as an observer witness. She couldn't say anything. And they decided that Miss Banez Mahmood did not deserve to live anymore. So she should be murdered in the name of preserving honor or izzat. Izzat is a very powerful concept in many cultures, such as in India and in Persian cultures and so forth. In India, they have saying, "Ye hamare," hamare izzat ke sawal hai. This is the issue of our honor, reputation, dignity. Izzat pretty much rules every aspect of the life, relationship, decision makings, and how you should behave. And izzat seems to reside more in the women. So women are the embodiment of izzat, and so depending upon their behavior, so they are restricted very much, as my speaker colleagues mentioned about, and then, the worst thing that could happen to women is femicide. And it's a very complex issue. So it really requires equally complex scholarly approach to it, and multi-level contextual approach. And scholars like us, we have used what is called socio-ecological approach to study and understand, honor-related murder. Miss Banez Mahmood was cold-blooded murder at home, packed in a suitcase and dumped, many miles away. So her body was discovered. Yeah. So when we look at that, all of us really, we were so emotionally, disturbed. Of course, my two authors, are women, directly related to them. But as a man, I grew up in a very different culture. It hit me so bad that I lost sleep for many days. I never worked on an issue like this as a scholar. We try to remain objective, but yet this is too much to bear even for scholars' objective approach. And so when we look at that, what we found is that, at the macro level, patriarchal society and system, male hegemonic ideology, and cultural concepts like izzat or honor, they really contributed much to violence against women, and in particular femicides. And at what we call exo level, institutional levels, as we know, women experience a lot of institutional inequality and discriminations. In the case of Benaz Mahmood, she actually reported to the Metropolitan London Police that her life was in danger, but police were lacking intercultural sensitivity, and they could have saved her life, but they did not. Actually, they reported to the family, which was the terrible mistake. So now the father knew what she did, and so she paid the ultimate price. And then at the group level, we call it meso level, family play an important role. The majority of the femicide really takes place in domestic settings called domestic violence. And family are there actually to protect each other's life, but in many cultures like this, women's lives really does not seem to be valued at all, and the mother had no power to protect Benaz Mahmood, and all the males, they decided to kill her. And then at the micro-individual level, there are many factors like misogyny. And so when we bring all of these factors together, we can see how complex and that issue that we're dealing with. There's no easy answers to this. And as my colleague speakers spoke about, when something is part of your faith, religion as an institution, that is deeply ingrained in your psyche, isn't it? When something is part of your culture, it's not easy to uproot it. And these are the factors which have so much impact on the lives of women in particular. So much violence happens against women, unfortunately. And so my call for action, of course, are two today. That we really need to build a culture of peace. UNESCO defined culture of peace on the ground of universal values of respect for life, liberty, and equality. So that means every life matters. And if we can learn to build culture of peace at home, where a lot of domestic violence and femicide takes place, and culture of peace in the community and society at large, I think that can prevent, that can intervene, and eventually that can eliminate violence against women. So that's my belief system here. Yeah. Another call for action is what the women are already doing here. As I was flying from Orange County here, I watched a movie called Riding with Fire. And this movie was such a powerful and very unique movie that it tells a story that happened in 2002 in a small village in northern part of India, a state called Uttar Pradesh. A group of Dalit women, Dalit are the untouchable women, right? The lowest caste in the Hindu system. Everybody looks down upon you. You are not worth the dust under my feet. I'm not exaggerating here, okay? But yet these women, they bonded together, and the leader of the women, for some reason, she was able to get quite a high-level education. She had a master's degree. But the rest of the other women hardly had access to education. Some of them are dropped out from school. And so yet, they tried to form a group and fight against the injustice and violence against women. And so they tried to publish a newspaper called Waves of News. And they did that for 14 years, and later they tried to go digital. And so many of women, they have never seen, if you will, iPhone or phone at all, right? So now this group somehow tried to get resources and buy a phone and put it in the hand of these few women, and teach them how they can do basic things like regarding like today's event, and then try to ask questions to the concerned officials, And then they try to put that in the news report and try to create YouTubes. They had many small successes, and these women feel very empowered. They said, because of this newspaper, they think they have the power to fight against the injustice and violence against them. And so here we have highly educated women here, okay? So I think you can definitely, fight for justice. And as a man, I think we need to express our allyship with the women. We have a duty. Women deserve special respect because human life begins in the womb of a woman, right? Human life doesn't begin in somebody like my womb here. And without mother's love and care, or the caregiver's love, hundreds of studies show that infants cannot survive. Our very survival is related to women's womb and mother's care and women's compassionate care. Yeah. So as a man, I think we need to learn to speak up and stand with the women and give them support. I think some of the art exhibitions are very powerful, in particular, the artists over here, so that there is women, right, in this painting, as you can see later, that she feels like a bird freed from the cage and looks like she is doing a ballerina dance, but the artist told me this is not a ballerina dance. And then in her hand, she has this hijab taken out, which is a faceless identity, and the man is lifting the women. So she said this is expression that man as a brother, as a husband, as a friend, or whatever, we can, right, support the women. Okay? So with those few words, I know time is a resource here, and we will have opportunity to interact with you later. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and let's stand together. In the words of former President Obama, yes, we can. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Dorjee. Such important topic, yet less spoken. Now we open the circle to you. This is your moment to ask, to reflect, to connect. Our speakers are here, not just to speak to you, but with you. Lawdan will help moderate the conversation. If you have a question, please raise your hand.
So it's kind of dark here. I don't see anybody has their hands up. So you can ask your questions. I pass, I guess, the microphone. And then. Do we have any lights in here?
So I wanted to ask, in your guys' opinion, what would you say, like, people around my age, like teenagers, 16, that may not have, like, disposable income or opportunities to, like, do big things, what can we do in our everyday lives to help support, like, women in Iran, and just movements like this, even though we have limited opportunities?
I guess the arts that you see out there and the conversation that is going on, that would be great. One of the things that actually helped the Iranian women, that this new generation, the Gen Zs, even though it's 47 years of oppression of the Islamic regime, this new generation doesn't accept their argument. And they're totally accept the dangers and walk without the hijab on the streets because of these phones in their hands. They don't accept anymore that they are inferior, that it can be true that there is a God out there that considers them half human. So being in conversation with them and sharing your stories, you know, they dream about your lives, that be able to just dance on the streets, to have this kind of freedom. So use what you have in this country, fight for it, because now we are losing it as well with the administration we have, but let's just make sure that it's very easy to lose what you have. Again, during when there was the Shah in Iran, we have the kingdom, we had a king, and we didn't have freedom to have political freedom. But women had the rights to divorce rights, custody rights, wear what we want, eat what we want. We lost all of it overnight, kind of. So bad things can happen in this country too. So you guys have to be voting, be politically active, do whatever you want don't think that democracy is just there forever. So you have to fight for it. Thank you, though.
Thank you so much for this great question. I think, as Ladan said, I think listening is very important. Don't underestimate the practice of listening. And then listening and learning, not listening necessarily to answer anything, but listening to learn from specifically those who were under that kind of pressure and or oppression or whatever. And then I think that the next probably step is just communicating with your people in your communication. Just spread that kind of knowledge among your community member. And I think that by itself can really help the process of knowledge production. Yeah, thank you so much.
Really, thank you for that question. And you know, we live in a globalized world, which means which are so tightly interconnected. I mean, there was a time, you know, if something is happening very far off, not that I want to sound very cruel here, if it's not in my proximity, I don't have to lose sleep, right? But today, that's not the case. Anything happening in any part of the world has become our business. What happens here has ripple effects on other parts of the world and vice versa. So my kind of idea somebody say is that first we need to be better informed about these causes and struggles, that I teach at American University. I grew up on a different planet. And with all the due respect to my Americans, now I'm American, so respect to myself too here, that we don't seem to know much about the rest of the world, to be honest with you. We are full of ourselves. We are so privileged. When it comes to other countries, we really don't know much, And so yet we want to do something. We speak on their behalf, and then sometimes that's not effective. We create more troubles there. So I think if you want to speak effectively, you want to be better informed, right? I mean, emotion has a power energy, but emotion is not enough. I know you are a girl, so it should directly relate to you. So you could become very emotional, but emotion is only energy, but don't use it to speak, because without facts and figures, right, your message is going to be lost in things, So I would say just network with these incredible women, and Gen Zs have so much power these days. The latest in the political field was Nepal. They toppled the whole government. And so you have amazing power. But just be better informed, and so use your critical thinking well. Yeah.
Dr. Dorjee, you are outnumbered here. I'm going to say use your emotion.
I was just wondering if you see a lot of similarities that is happening in Iran with the rest of the world. I'm wondering if you see kind of the same thing, or if you see that it's a lot different.
Unfortunately, the statistics shows that democracy are losing. If you look at it since, I think, 2012, we're going backward. There are more dictatorship around the world, and there is more desire for a strong man. But unfortunately, as Churchill was saying, democracy is the worst way of running a country, but is the best compared to every other one. So it's important that you guys take your freedom, but you have very serious and work on it and help others. Because as I said, like every political prisoners in Iran, when their names are said by others, when it's their names on social media and is passing around, they suddenly change their, they are not on death row anymore. They cancel their death sentence, or they even sometimes free them. So it's important that you don't think that social media is totally worthless. It passes misinformation, disinformation, but sometimes can come very handy. So all of that helps, and education, education, education. I myself went back to school. Dr. Dorjee was my professor. I went back at 40, I think, and finished my studies and got my master's degree. So take your education serious. It's much easier to do it when you're at a young age than going back after 2 kids and work and everything. So stick out with the school and learn what you can, and you learn from your good professors, and hopefully you get there.
Thank you so much for that great question. I really enjoy when I hear that kind of very loaded and very great questions here. To be honest, from the perspective of someone who is coming from a feminist discipline or field of study or position, I can say that unfortunately we see sexism, racism, patriarchy all over the world. It is not something that is only for Iran, for Afghanistan, for a specific region in the specific global, what is that, global north south? It is not something like that. It is everywhere. But there is a problem if we do not recognize this difference we just lose something. And that is that the consequence of doing this kind of patriarchal or sexism is different in different parts of the world. For example, we may see, I don't know, some kind of racist behavior here or maybe sexist behavior here in the US, and I don't know, in Iran, in India or whatever, or any other countries. But the point is, there should be some kind of laws to prevent that kind of, sexist or racist or, patriarchal behavior. And this is something that we may not see in all countries, in all contexts. That's why the degree and the form of these violences can be different in different parts of the world because of that kind of legal, protection or maybe even legal problem that they may have. So I think it's very important to recognize that this is a kind of global problem, but at the same time, the reaction to that is not the same in different parts of the world. And we should, what we are doing right now here is to educate others, and even powers, forces, governments to work on that part, even activists to work on that part and just improve the life of women, both culturally and also legally. Thank you.
I don't know what else I can add to what you already said. No, that's true. The things I highlighted at the macro level, right? Patriarchal system and male hegemonic ideology, cultural concepts. So these are everywhere in many ways, isn't it? Even in a very superpower nation like United States of America, women, right, in many ways are not treated as equal to the men. And there's a glass ceiling, isn't it? Women come in general with the same qualifications as the men, with the same level of publications, expertise, let's say in my field, and then they are not going to get paid equally. So you earn less than, right? Even in a very, what we call superpower nation, but now we are talking about many other parts of the world, right? We have to come a long way, actually, isn't it? So many of these issues, continue because of it's codified in the institutions and the religious belief system, isn't it? And those are very deep ingrained in the blood and very hard to change. And it's very hard to even talk about. That's a very sensitive issue. It's almost like, so you're bad-mouthing my religion? What about your religion? Well, that's not what it is, So we have to learn a very skillful way to be able to talk about this thing so that we can address the elephant in the house and not end up with some other kind of conflicts, right? And so it definitely needs much broader perspective in education. So we look within our own society, right? The women's rights and issues. We do have violence against women here too, maybe to a smaller extent, but then we have a greater in other parts of the world. So as an intercultural scholar, I look at it more from cultural perspective. There are so many things and many cultures, they seem so outdated, but yet, there are laws. For example, in India, constitutionally, they ban a cultural concept called sati practice. Sati means that in the Rajputana Hindu tradition, if a man dies, the wife must be burned alive on the funeral pyre. Why? That will keep the sanctity of your relationship. With me? Imagine that. If I get my finger in a fire, that's so painful. Now, the whole life. And if you're not willing to do that, then all the Rajputanas with the swords are guarding that, okay, you don't have a choice. So, in India, now it happens once in a blue moon, in a very remote part of India, although the constitutional is banned, because the culture is so pervasive and so deep in people, they believe that if I don't do this, then, I'm kind of defying my belief system. Are you with me? So that would be true with the stories they told us. How can religious leaders can be a little bit more open-minded and maybe read the holy book carefully. And did really the God say that? I don't know, whatever God you believe in. Maybe there are other interpretations of it, Maybe they need to be changed, I don't know, right? I can be big mouth, I'm a professor, so excuse me. But really they need to do that hard work, Because if we build a culture of peace, we will all be happier, isn't it? If women are happy, we have a happy family. If women are unhappy, all the husbands know, go home, and you're going to be miserable. I'm not married, so I don't know what that means, but I have a sister. Almost like I can understand what that is. So we really need to, support women's equal right.
Yeah, I would just like to say that in regard to this, I'm wondering if anybody is including the works of Wilhelm Reich, who wrote The Mass Psychology of Fascism, with the idea that the repression of inherent drives is the building block of authoritarianism. And his disciple, James DeMille, wrote the book Saharasia, that showed where their desertification occurred, patriarchy developed, and that there was at that time an idea that if you go back far enough, we were all matrilineal. One of the things that he noted was that the further north you go in India, the more patriarchy, and the further south you go, the more gender equality and matrilineal succession. And that was based on the idea that tribes from the more desertified areas were patriarchal, and they invaded from the north and brought that south. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that.
Thank you. Vice versa, right?
That's yours.
You are the Indian expert.
We have a scholar here who will respond to yours.
Yeah, I think what you said is very important, specifically from the perspective that we should not really think about a specific region as a very homogeneous part. And it's very interesting, and it's very important to recognize the differences in even one specific context. For example, if I want to come back to the context of Iran, for sure, what you see in Tehran is very different from a very remote part, for example, in Sistan and Baluchistan province, and we should really recognize that even what we see in the media, for example, in social media, is something that we can see. I mean, there is a kind of we have accessibility to what is really there. But there are many things that we cannot see, because sometimes I'm thinking that what is invisible is as important as what is visible, and we should really recognize that kind of differences, even within the context. So I think that's a very valid point that you mentioned, yes. Do you want to add anything?
Thank you so much. I think we're going to continue with the show, and then we'll have another time for questions if anybody has any more questions. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the powerful discussion. We will now enjoy a performance by Emmy called Pulse. Healing begins when we acknowledge and treat women as the whole, complex, beautiful humans that they are, rather than a collection of their parts and uses. Please join me in welcoming her on the stage.
Listen closely. My dance is my confession. My dance is my confession. My dance is my confession. Closely. Listen closely. Listen closely.
Oh my God, I have goosebumps right now. That was a beautiful performance. Okay, we will now take a break. I think we need that after all these powerful speeches and performance. So please enjoy the refreshment, and I encourage you to spend this time exploring the art displays created by our talented artists. We will reconvene at 6:15. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. We hope the break and the art around you offered a moment to breathe, feel, and reflect. Now, we continue our journey together. We're honored to present Girls That Never Die, a live performance that brings to life stories of courage and resilience. Based on a poem by Safia El-Hilo, this choreography is a searing indictment of patriarchal system, mourning the erasure of girls' identities and agency, while exposing how tradition, honor, and silence are weaponized to control, violate, and trade women's bodies.
Hi, my name's Anya Kumar. I'm so glad y'all are here today. I'm with USCIRF Global, and this is a poem I wrote based on my lived experience called Also. I hope you enjoy. I faint. More than 32 times in a day, I faint. Fall to the ground with my hands bound, I faint. I also forget. I don't remember waking up today. I don't remember that I loved. I don't remember that I flew like a dove. I also can't dance. With medication affecting the control over my body, my graceful movements start to look sloppy. I also can't go to school. Kids who I don't remember asking, "Are you under the weather?" But really, I'm just trying to get better without having to surrender. I also give up. I don't remember waking up today. Getting up in the morning is me getting ready for war. I can't win. My days filled with doctors, money spent, time went, my mind bent. I also die. Suicide attempts every other month. My loved ones falling into a slump, trying to give life to a lump. July 14th, 2017. Dear Diary, a man put his hands on me today. I was walking along the outskirts of the neighborhood collecting flowers when I felt his hands. He unclothed me. Maybe we were gonna go swimming. He touched me in ways I can't explain. His lifeless eyes roamed my body, speaking 1,000 words, yet he never said he was sorry. January 18th, 2018. Dear Diary, today in school we had health. They told me to worship my body, but they don't know that hands so dirty have erased me. He raped me. Does this mean I'm gonna have a baby? I'm not even married yet. What do I tell my parents? I'm not even a lady. I also survived. Not a day have I lived since you ripped it away. Every breeze, every sway, I feel you every godforsaken day. October 25th, 2025. Dear Diary, I am not recognized. Child rape is recognized, but what comes after is criticized. People don't visualize what I went through, but I do every single night. It isn't light, nothing feels right. Dear Diary, when will people realize how hard child rape victims have to try? Thank you. choreography.
Perhaps a cow, perhaps some gold. For a girl carried kicking from her father's house, from her father's name, and slung over her shoulder and passed to another, whose belonging will name her, will give her form. Girl like water, shapeless without the bowl. Girl perhaps cut, perhaps in a pharaonic way, sent off to be split. Girl as paintbrush, sent off to stain a sheet. Perhaps by cover of night, perhaps the husband is old, and the girl, a child, legs clamped tight, as if by stitching. Perhaps his brother, perhaps his cousins. Men as ropes, as chains, brought in to peel the girl like young fruit. The pith still bitter, still clinging to the rind.
from her father's knee and slung over his shoulder and passed to another, and slung over his shoulder and passed to the pith still bitter, still clinging to the rind. The pith still bitter, still clinging to the rind, still clinging to the rind. The pith still bitter, still clinging to the rind, still clinging to the rind.
Thank you for this beautiful, moving performance. Wow. Our next speaker is Nayara Santos, a Brazilian writer, copywriter, and former lawyer with experience in international law through UN programs in New York, Egypt, and Geneva. She is the author of 3 books exploring themes of life, death, and human transformation. Tonight, she will present Before Being a Woman, Rape Culture and the Loss of Humanity, including the case of Jyoti Singh, Nirbhaya in India. Please welcome Nayara to the stage. Thanks.
Thank you, Reina. Thank you, guys. Everyone is here. I really appreciate this opportunity. As Reina told, I am from Brazil. My name is Nayara. And before we begin, I would like to ask you something very simple. Have you ever been to the movies with a female friend? Raise your hands, please. Yes, nice. After the movie, you guys, did you both get home safely? If so, raise your hand, please. Yes. As ordinary as that sounds, not every woman makes it home. And today, I'm going to talk about what happens when a woman stops being seen as a human being, rape culture, and the loss of humanity. Let's start with the real case of Jyoti Singh. She was an Indian girl, 23-year-old medical student. On 16th December 2012, she was in the movie with her friend Satendra. When were they coming back on the moving bus, she was raped by 6 men, while Satendra was hit by those men. So she received so extreme violence that day that her intestines was removed. It was so violent that the doctors said they had never seen something that before. And what happens next was that the protest, the people filled the streets together for over a month and demanding justice, demanding change, demanding dignity. Their voices got a reform in India criminal laws, including death penalty. And today here, I want to go beyond the crime itself and ask, why did this violence happen? And why does it keep happening everywhere? Jyoti used to say that the biggest problem in India was the mindset that creates inequality from birth, inequality between men and girls. And there is a documentary called India's Daughter. I am talking about based on this documentary because it was my final work at university. I was based on this, and I would like to share Leslie Weed-Udwin thoughts here. So she interviewed the rapist and the lawyer, and she was actually, when she interviewed the rapist, she was expecting monsters. She was expecting psychopaths. She was expecting extraordinary people. But there were no extraordinary people there. The men that raped Jyoti Singh were ordinary, common. They worked, they had a family, they had a normal life. So what's the problem? What's behind that? What's beyond? What's happening that people acted like they acted? And she discovered that was the mindset behind it. The way people think about women, the way they raise up believing that women are less than men. And it is related to patriarchal mentality because a lot of those statements from rapists were about like that. Sorry. Okay, women shouldn't be out at night, that women carry more responsibility for rape than men, that women shouldn't go to bars, shouldn't wear certain clothes, shouldn't have male friends. One lawyer said that in their culture, there is no place for women. We can realize that this kind of thought, mentality, is everywhere in authorities, in societies, with many times in our family. And those statements are not about India. They are about patriarchy, and patriarchy exists everywhere. It's global. Leslie Udwin, the filmmaker, said that these men are not the disease. They are the symptoms. The real disease is the mindset that considers women worth less than men. And this begins long before a crime happens. So when this begins? It begins when the birth of a man is celebrated and the birth of a girl is not. When boys are more nourished than girls. When girls are raised to serve, to obey, to stay silent. When women's freedom is restricted from childhood. When society normalizes the idea that a woman's body belongs to everyone but herself. If a woman is considered less worth from birth, then there will be men who believe they can do whatever they want to her. That is the root of the rape culture. Once, I am graduating law, and I was at the university. I was having a small talk with a colleague that was studying there, and he said, "Hey, you are a woman. You can't wear short clothes, because if you do, you go in the middle of people, men, and you're gonna be abused. So don't wear short clothes. Don't be in the middle of sharks, because if you are bleeding, you are gonna be attacked." He told me that. Law student. And the consequences of this mindset is that it blames the victim. It minimizes the aggressor. It naturalizes inequality, and it turns women into objects to be controlled. Women, when it happens, women feel guilty. Women fear being disapproved. Women fear retaliation. They fear judgment. They fear not being believed. They fear the police. They fear the justice system, and many remain silent. The real problem is the gender inequality, and it is the root cause. And this gender inequality brings a lot of problems, such as human trafficking, rape, child marriage, honor killings, acid attacks, and every such things like that. And Leslie Udwin also said, if gender inequality is the problem, gender equality is the solution. Jyoti Singh, the girl, understood this. And the patriarchal mentality that devalued her life from birth led her to her death. But I'm from Brazil. Why am I talking about an India case? You are Iranian, there are Americans here. Why am I talking about it? Because for one simple thing, human being. Before nationality, before my education, before any title, before being a woman, I am a human being. And we are all connected. When a woman suffered in India, in Iran, in Brazil, I suffer. We all suffer too, because we are part of this society and we need each other. We, I, you, everyone here need to be loved, need to be respected, need to be welcome. It's our human nature. We don't run away from this. When a woman has received this kind of violence, when dignity is not respected, is to deny her essence. And as a writer, I write about essence. Essence of life, essence of death, essence of pain, time. I wouldn't be happy, if somebody that I love, somebody that I don't know, doesn't matter, but the dignity is not respected, it eliminates the essence. And the essence of woman is create, is show her hair, her body is about to respect what she wants to do in her life, if she wanna get married or if she doesn't, if she wanna go to the college or if she doesn't. When we disrespect it, when we don't respect it, we are killing a human being. When we don't respect their dreams, we are killing a human being. I'm sure many of us here are here because we have a dream. Imagine when you have to kill it. When you learn that you are here to serve your husband, your house, your home. What about else? What about other things? What about her? What should I do? What should I do? It's about women choose whether they want family or not, their hair, clothing, and identity, if they want to study or not. It's the right of existence, okay? It's the basic. I'm not here, I came from Brazil, I'm not here to talk about international laws or something like that, guys. I'm here to talk about the basic, the obvious. Because this obvious, this basic, we are not following. Okay, I am talking about human beings, and human beings need respect, need the dreams to raise it and realize. So it's part of our existence. But if I'm here from Brazil, Iranian, Indian, Americans, we are here, it's because we don't have this basic. Because if we had, that's why we are here. So in reality, it's not what happened. In reality, there are so many people, so many women be killed today, every 20 minutes, raped, in Brazil too. And that's why law exists. That's why there is Article 1, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Every woman being is born free and equal in dignity and rights. And for not respecting, we have this day. There is this day just day for elimination of violence against women. And because we don't respect the basic, I will exist too. To support women, to support immigrants, to give voice of thousands of women who were silenced. I'm not doing big thing. No, you can watch the documentary, please watch India's Daughter. You can research about law. You can do whatever you want about research, guys. But I'm here just to say that we all are connected. And there is no nationality, there is no PhDs, bachelor's degrees, student, when we are talking about human being. And I really appreciate that you are here to hear the obvious. And I really appreciate, because if you are here, you are part of this movement that that increase the women, that brings opportunity, equality, and one day, who knows, we can eliminate this violence everywhere in the world. Together, I'm sure we can do this. Together, changing this kind of mentality, we can do more things than just telling the obvious. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naira. Now we can open the floor for any questions you have from Naira. Please raise your hand and we'll come to you.
Yes, thank you for your points. What inspires me? Okay. Essence inspired me. I had a lot of experience in my life that my grandma, my mom, my father passed away, and everything pushed me to think, to reflect about life. And reflecting about life, I could see that we have this life, but what else? What could I do better? Because if life took me everything, what rest? So inspire me that you can live your essence. I can live my essence. Inspire me when I have voice to be here, when I have a place, when she is here, when he is here. It makes me move. It makes me write, makes me reflect, makes me share. That's why I am here, and I hope this essence everyone could feel and act according to their heart, you know. That's it. Thank you, I really appreciate it.
There are matrilineal societies where women have lots of rights, like Kerala, and it has very positive effects on the society in general. Kerala is a state in southwest India. There are matrilineal tribes. It isn't just everywhere. And everybody has responsibility for what they do. If they rape this woman, you can't just say that it's the culture that made them do it. Everybody has a certain amount of agency, and if you just say that culture made them do it, you could go back to the beginning of human life looking for the ultimate responsible person. I mean, so that's just my perception, and just like to throw it out there.
Okay, thank you for your perception. And what do you believe when a woman can't? I would like to know from you, what do you believe happens when a woman don't follow their heart to live what they dream?
Well, that's dehumanizing. I mean, everybody should be able to pursue their inner calling.
Yes, I totally agree. That's why we are here today. Yes. Am I being clear? No.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Naira. Okay. As we move towards closing, I want everybody to stay here until the end because we have other things that will come up as well. And we have something to do in a collective as you will also join us for that. I want to take a moment to thank our speakers for sharing their knowledge, lived experiences, and courage. Our performance for bringing depth and emotion to this space. Our artists whose work has given voice to stories beyond words. Our organizers, volunteers, and everyone who helped bring tonight to life. And finally, all of you, for showing up, listening, and choosing not to look away. This day, November 25, is about breaking silence, but it is also about building community, fostering empathy, and committing to change. Thank you for being part of this moment. We will now transition into closing conversation and final thoughts from speakers and performance. Thank you.
Hi. The rest of the SCIRF board will be here soon. I think they're just wrapping up costumes and everything. Sorry for the wait.
When they come to the stage, if you have any questions, if you want to know more, please raise your hand and we'll bring the microphone to you.
I'm going to hand it off to Joyce Fossey, who is the director and founder of SCIRF. And these are our dancers.
Yeah, so thank you for being here. Thank you for attending. Thank you to Edmonds College and I Will for collaborating with us. I know this is not an easy feat to put together. Huge round of applause to all the organizers, especially Edmonds College. If you have any questions about the 3 choreographies you saw today, Beraye, Pulse, and Girls That Never Die, we have been working on it for months. If you have questions, I would love to have all of us respond to you.
I was kind of confused about the last one. Maybe because you didn't have enough dancers, I don't know. First it was the father that was selling his daughter, and then he was raping the girl as well to get the bloody paper. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, so these are different stories. This is a poem by Safia El Hilo. It's about the plight of Muslim women in West Africa. So each line in her story, in her poem, is a different story. So every time there is an interlude music, how does it go, Mira?
Na 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 na.
That represents the next story, so we change characters. I know it's a little hard to grok. Do we have an extra mic, Anya? Can you get the...
Thank you for powerful performances. It was wonderful to see stories from different corners of the world and see we suffer all together and we come together here. Hopefully, we can make things better. Something that I observed that the stories that I have been following before, just listening to activists and stuff, I could get it totally. But the stories that I wasn't aware what happened and I didn't hear the background story before, it was a little harder for me to follow. That's the only thing I wanted to say. But most of it I did, I got. I just wanted to say that it was very, very powerful to hear stories from different corners of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And we deliberately didn't do a long-winded description of what we do. We instead had the director's notes. Emmy had her notes. I had my notes on how and why we choreographed it. And there was a QR code outside. We wanted to save paper. So, yeah, so it's available. You can still go take a look at the poem if you would like to. And if you would like us to explain the sequence, we are more than happy to do that, if anybody wants to know what it was. Okay, next question. Anya, can you? That's Ria, she's my student. She's helping me out.
That last piece was really beautiful. I didn't get to see the rest of it because I was backstage, but I'm just wondering, it's one thing to represent a victim of that sort of thing, but you all also represented the oppressors, and I'm just wondering what that was like and how you went through that and, I guess, kept that still peace within yourself. Yeah.
It was extremely difficult. Anybody wants to talk about it?
I was the dad and the rapist. So I think I was thinking about that today, like that very question about what does it mean to like play that type of role with empathy, and there are so many roles that we all play as victims and oppressors in ourselves, and so I think I was just recognizing that everyone is acting as part of a society, and like a father giving away his daughter is doing so because he wants what he thinks is, and he believes is best for her. He wants her to have a good life, and that's what he's been taught. And so he doesn't, he sees that like resisting that may become very difficult for her. And so he doesn't want her to suffer. Like he, I was thinking like, well, if she resists, then they may make things very, very hard for her. And that, that love is expressed in some way still. And so that's how I, found that kind of empathy for that situation.
Like I said, it was hard to choreograph, and it was also hard to perform and parse through it when you're doing the choreography. One of the things I want to agree with her is we are part of the problem. It's not just men and cousins and patriarchy, it's us too. The section on female genital mutilation, I saw a BBC documentary about a family in London where the grandparents, the grandmother of the child, not the child, like the teenage girl, actually told her, come, let's do this. Because I did it, my grandma did it. You should do it because it's about honor. It's about family honor. So when I'm bringing Tanvi, when Mira's bringing Tanvi, we come to the center, I actually tell her it's okay. Mira and I also did it. I'm going to give you a sweet. I actually give her something sweet to eat, saying this is an amazing thing to do. And then we lay her down. We, the women, lay her down. So we are part of the problem is what this poem says.
What you just said, is that why your hands are red? Okay, you have blood on your
Everybody has blood on their hands,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Ria. Ria's getting her 10,000 steps for today.
I just quickly wanted to commend the young lady who did the poem on
Anya.
her own and stood there so bravely and proudly. Wonderful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you for sharing.
It needs a lot of courage. Absolutely. And
Hi, I'm Emmy Fansler-Bakari. I'm the artistic director at the dance school in Everett and proud friend and associate of Joyce and Scarf. My piece, Pulse, I realized that my choreography is more abstract and more open to your interpretation as well. So I'll give you a little bit of my feedback, and I would also love to hear what it meant to you. Because we can all interpret things differently, yes? For me, that piece was about the violence that comes from the objectification of women, from seeing them as different parts and different uses, different values, measuring them in different ways, and not seeing them as the whole. But also the difficulty as a woman to I had a really hard time letting go of that red scarf because that's what I know, and this is the way that I know that I'll be cared for or liked or seen or appreciated or whatever the case may be. But it's in letting go of that and viewing myself as a whole and valuing myself as a whole that I also am sharing that with other people, that I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, I am this. Yeah. And actually, one more thing real quick. The last part of it was really the idea of I'm also not just this, I'm this, right? It's not my parts, it's not me as one person, it's community and the ways that we love and carry each other.
Your part, as any other part, actually, they were all beautiful and poetic. My interpretation from your part was the culture shift that we are all hoping for, and it came from women, and it came from every individual, which was very, very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your great performance. Actually, you just answered my question already. I was wondering if I can find this performance on YouTube and share it with my friends. It was very inspiring and very good. Thank you.
So Baraye is on YouTube, but Pulse was choreographed for this show, and Girls That Never Die was also choreographed especially for this show. So they're both brand new choreographies, everyone. So they are So they're not on YouTube yet. As soon as we get the recording from Edmonds College, we will edit it, mix it, and put it up. Thank you so much. Please do reach out to us. I also want to give a shout out to Meera for the music composition for Girls That Never Die. To Rajesh Kamath for the guitar. He's not here today. And to Siamak for guitar, arranging, mixing, spending sleepless nights, editing the music. Please stand up and take a bow, Siamak.
And Joyce, choreographer extraordinaire.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Joyce Masi because she's my dance teacher, and for the last maybe month and a half, she has been, oh my gosh, I see her almost every day, and she has been so stressed, and she put so much hard work into this, and I don't know how she did it because she choreographed a new piece, created music for it with the help of others, obviously choreographed it, and like delved into some really tough topics. So thank you, Joyce Masi.
I also want to thank another co-founder of SCARF, Ashok, for sponsoring food for all the artists and tech folks in the green room. We were nourished. Thank you so much. All right, any more choreography questions? There's one there, Ria. We can talk of choreography like for hours. So
Yeah, apparently I can't stop yapping either, so I'm sorry. First of all, I wanted to say, I think everyone felt the same way. Just incredibly touching, moving, beautiful performances. I cried because of each of them, especially the scream. That just...
Tanvi.
Yes.
That's Tanvi Kale.
Sometimes words cannot express, or even movements, I suppose. I did have a specific question about pulse. I was curious about the significance of the color white at the end, because that sort of took the place of the red.
That was a hard thing for me also, if I can say, because I don't want to give this idea that I know that there's a lot of weight behind the color white. I'll say that. And it was really, for me, more about blank. I wrote this poem a long time ago that said, I believe in, no, I can't remember it. But talking about the idea of having buckets of white paint and how that's clearly a substance, but putting it on the wall makes it blank. We don't say this is a white wall, we say this is a blank wall. We don't say this is a white canvas, we say this is a blank canvas. So the idea of I just have to get out of this container and just see what it is, see what's there underneath. Also, there was a wardrobe malfunction. That was supposed to close, but that's okay. It worked. It's all about vulnerability, right? And there you go.
Thank you. Your performance was just incredible. It spoke to me personally because I was forced into a marriage, so I understand it, and it really spoke to me. And I had to run away a very tough marriage. So I was really trying not to cry. So thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful performance. Thank you. Any question for our speakers? Any more question? Yes.
Thank you so much for all of the performance and presentation. I just want to ask, when could be your next event?
Special thank you, this beautiful, beautiful woman here, Nasim. Everything happened because she organized this event and helped coordinate it, and I really appreciate it. I would like her to speak.
I know it's late at night and in middle of the week before Thanksgiving. You all are here because you care. Thank you. I want to just take a moment to say this started for a lot of us in this room as an awakening moment about 3 years ago by a very tragic death of a 20-year-old girl who was just walking the streets, and through police brutality, through being taken away from her family in the daylight and being beaten up to death. She died, but her name became the symbol for the most recent, in recent history, the feminist movement and uprising called Woman, Life, Freedom. It didn't only inspire the Iranian women, it inspired a lot of women across the globe who started cutting their hair in solidarity to say enough is enough. It is unfortunate in a way that we are still here. We shouldn't be here. This should not be a problem, but it is. And a lot of lives are lost And we are here talking about that. And I want to just take a moment of silence and honoring those who have either lost their lives or have paid huge prices for this. Thank you. And after that, I just have a comment to say. We founded this organization with 3 people. Today, we have volunteers from Brazil, France, Canada. We have speakers like Dr. Dorjee, who is here honoring us. We have amazing collaboration with USCIRF. We are here in Edmonds College. I want to thank Adine. A huge honor to be here, and thank you, every single one of you. I think as a collective move to end the evening, we would like to play a song, and I want to thank Ladan for bringing that up. We are going to play the song, and then after you watch it, we would love for you to join us in recreating that song. It sounds tough. I already know there are some people in the audience who said they're not going to participate, and I'm not going to name names. And the original song is actually played with putting basically blindfolds on and a red lipstick. We skipped that part because there are some gentlemen here that may not want to exactly do that. But I want all of you to participate, please. So if you can please play the song. Laura, do you want to give any background about what the song is?
This is a song from Chilean woman back in 2019 about gender violence, the rape culture, and institutional impunity. So it went viral. It became an anthem for women all around the world, and they replayed it everywhere, from Turkey, from Iran. It has an English version, Farsi version, everything, you name it. So it's great that you look at it. I hate dancing myself. I'm always very subconscious. But there's only a few steps. So you do left and right, and then there's a squat thinking, because when the women are arrested for protesting, they make them squat. So then at the end, you just point to the rapist that among all of us. So the song is called Rapist Among Us. So please look at the video, then we replay it. Let's all of us dance and finish this night with a big bang that we can put our video out there too with all the videos that are played from this song. Thank you.
Estado Viva